Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today I just wanted to hop on here and do a quick video about my au pair experience. For those of you who don't know, I was an au pair for a little over a year and a half in France, mainly in Paris. But what a lot of people don't know is that I actually worked for 3 different families during that time. I have dealt with good families and I have dealt with not so good families. So I wanted to hop on here and share my experience and maybe give you guys some tips, things to look for in a family and things to look out for when you are searching for an au pair family. So my au pair journey started back in 2019. So I originally found out about being an au pair from my college roommate who had been an au pair in Australia, and she absolutely loved it. She got to travel around Australia while making a little bit of money as an au pair, and it sounded like something that really interested me, that I would really like. But I was still in school at that time, so I decided to wait and finish my studies, and then if I still wanted to be an au pair after I graduated, then I would pursue it at that time. So I graduated university in May 2018, and I ended up getting a job right out of university. So I went straight into working, and I kind of put my plan to be an au pair on the back burner. So I worked at my job for about a year, and honestly it was very draining and not very exciting. I felt like it wasn't really something I was passionate about. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I felt like I was kind of working just because that's what's expected of you after you graduate. So I needed something different. But I was a recent college graduate and I did not have a ton of money to go traveling, so I didn't know what to do. I knew I needed to do something because what I was doing wasn't working. So that is when I decided to revisit the idea of becoming an au pair. This was around maybe March or April 2019. So I went to aupairworld.com, I made an account, filled everything out, and I put the countries that I would like to go to, and I started contacting families and families started contacting me. So initially I put a few different countries that I was open to going to. I really wanted to go to Australia, so that was one of my top choices. And then I wanted to go to somewhere in Europe as well, so I put Germany and France as potential options of where I could go. So I messaged back and forth with tons of family. I Skyped with families in Australia, I Skyped with families in Germany, France, everywhere. Eventually I decided against going to Australia just because it's so far away, and this was my first time living so far from my family. I had lived away from home because I went to school out of state, and then once I started working I moved even further away to another state. So the furthest from home that I had been was maybe like 2,000 miles or so, maybe a little more. And so I had never lived outside of the country before, and although I loved the thought of going to Australia and I would still love to live there someday, it was just so far, and it worried me a little bit that it was so far away, and if anything happened or there was an emergency it would take me like a whole day of flying to get home, and there's an 18-hour time difference, and I decided against that for the time being. So then I was narrowing down my options, and I was thinking about going to Germany or going to France, and I Skyped with a few families in Germany and they seemed nice, but I didn't really find one that I clicked with. And part of being an au pair, there is a language requirement, so you have to learn the language of the country that you're moving to. And honestly, I think the thought of learning German kind of scared me, and in my mind it wasn't very practical at that time because where I'm from in the States, not a lot of people speak German. So my thinking was, if I move to Germany and learn German and I'm only there for a year and I move back home, am I ever really going to use German, or is it just going to be a year that I learn the language and then I go home and forget everything? So that is when I decided on France, and I decided that I was going to find a family in France. And so of course I wanted to be in Paris because it's Paris. So I began looking at families in Paris, and I messaged back and forth with tons of families. And then one day I got a message from my au pair family that I ended up going with, and they were super sweet. They told me a little bit about themselves, and they gave me a link to their family blog that they had, and they posted a bunch of pictures of the kids and like their family vacations and things they do together, which I thought was really cool because it kind of gave me an idea of their personality, and I could get the sense of who they were, things they like to do together, and that they were really a family unit and they enjoyed spending time together. So I really appreciated that. So I messaged back and forth with them. We had a little Skype meeting. I met the kids on Skype and I really liked them. So I gave them some time to reflect. I had some time to reflect, and then we decided that it was a match and we both liked each other. So then I moved forward with the visa process and got everything I needed to get together in order to move to Paris and start as their au pair. So the whole process of getting a visa and everything you need to do before moving to France as as an au pair. It's kind of a long process, so if you guys want more information about that, I can make a separate video about that because there is a lot of information. But for now, that's just the brief overview of what I had to do. So I officially left home. I packed up all my stuff and I took my 2 suitcases to Paris, and I landed in Paris on August 23rd, 2019. It was my first time in Europe. I had never been to Paris, let alone anywhere in Europe. I was so excited, nervous, scared, anxious, you name it. I was just a ball of emotions, but mostly I was excited. And my host dad picked me up from the airport, took me home. It was pretty late when I landed, so the kids were already asleep. So he brought me home, and then I met my host mom and showed me my room. And the first couple weeks I slept a lot because the time change kind of caught me off guard. France is 9 hours ahead of California, so yeah, that took some getting used to. So I was really tired for the first few weeks, and my host family was super understanding. They gave me time to sleep, and I didn't really have a schedule for the first few weeks because it was before school started, and they wanted me to come early so that I had some time to settle in and meet the kids and, you know, get adjusted a bit. So that was definitely really nice that they were very understanding, and we had planned to have some extra days so that I would be able to rest and be ready to go once school started. So for the first few weeks, I was a little bit nervous because obviously, like, you're meeting new people, you're in a new country, and not only are you meeting a new family who you're going to be working for and like taking care of their kids, which that's already a huge responsibility, but like you guys are living together, so it's kind of like extra nerve-wracking because you're like, you want to be on your best behavior and like obviously make a good impression. You're living in these people's house. So yeah, it was a little scary, but they were super accommodating, super welcoming. They introduced me to their neighbors, so I knew everyone in the neighborhood in case there was an emergency or anything like that. They showed me around the city. They took me into Paris. Actually, I arrived in France on August 23rd, and my birthday is September 3rd. So I remember my host family found out that it was my birthday literally like maybe 3 days before I had mentioned that, oh, it's, you know, my birthday is on Tuesday, and they got me a 50-euro gift card to go wherever I wanted to buy myself a gift. They took me on the Bateau Mouche around Paris, which, if you don't know, it's like an open air boat that goes down the Seine and you can see all of Paris, and it's so cute, and especially in the summer, it's such a good time to see everything. And I just thought that was so sweet because I had just arrived at their house. They didn't really know me. I had been there for a week, and they were thoughtful enough to get me a birthday gift and, you know, make me feel welcomed, so I really appreciated that. The kids were super sweet, so I was in charge of taking care of a 5-year-old, well, she was 5 at the time, and an 8-month-old. So yeah, they were super sweet kids. Anna, the 5-year-old, was a little bit shy at the beginning, which, my Virgo queen, it's okay because I was shy too, but you know, we made it work. But yeah, they were super good kids, really well behaved, very quiet, very laid back. I couldn't have asked for better host kids, honestly, because I had so many au pair friends who had terrible experiences with their host kids, and I was just like, that sucks, but like, I can't relate. My kids are great. But later on, I ended up having some bad experiences, but we'll get to that. So I ended up staying with this family for 1 year. So I started August 2019 and I ended in beginning of July 2020, and it was a great experience, honestly. They were very welcoming, very accommodating. They made an effort always to include me in their family outings, even if I wasn't working. If they went somewhere on the weekend or on their holidays, they would invite me and tell me that I was free to join if I wanted to, and it was great. We ate dinner together every night, and it was very much like I was part of the family, which I really appreciated because I know there's a lot of au pair families that don't do that. They kind of consider their au pair to be like an employee and not so much a part of the family, and so I really appreciated my host family because they know how the au pair system works, and they follow the rules. You know, they paid me on time. They paid me more than what was required to pay me. In France, I think the minimum you can pay your au pair is 80 euro per week. Most families pay about 100 euro per week. My host family paid me 130 euros per week. So they went above and beyond. They paid for my Navigo pass, so it's like my transportation pass around Paris, my phone bill, somewhere to live. Obviously, I had my own room, I had my own bathroom, and I had my own kitchen. I had like a whole separate apartment basically on the bottom floor of their house, which was amazing. So not only did they give me extra money every week to buy my groceries, but we also ate dinner together. So I really didn't even have to buy that many groceries, but it was nice that they were that thoughtful and actually cared about the well-being of their au pair, because not all families are like that, which I went on to learn later on. So I stayed with them until July, beginning of July. It was a great experience. I got to watch the kids grow, and I became super close with them. I am still very close to them now. now. We FaceTime each other often. On holidays, I'll send them gifts. We'll FaceTime each other here and there. I've been back to visit twice, and they let me stay at their place when I'm back in Paris visiting, which is amazing because accommodation in Paris is insanely expensive. So it's nice that they are still so thoughtful and so welcoming, even though I'm not working with them anymore. So initially, they began looking for their new au pair around March 2020, and at this time, this was when the world was kind of falling apart. So this is when coronavirus had just hit. We were all on lockdown. We didn't know what was going on or how long this was going to last. And I was just not very happy, like I think the rest of the world was. I was just very sad and not in the best mood. I was kind of bummed out because I'm like, I'm in France, but I can't go anywhere. I'm on lockdown, you know. So I was very homesick at this point. I had been in France for maybe 9 months and I hadn't gone home to see my family. And now we were on lockdown, so I didn't know when I would ever be able to go back, you know, and see my family. So at this point, I didn't want to be an au pair again. I wanted to go back home at the end of my au pair year, which was in July. So I told them I wasn't going to be an au pair again, and they started looking for their new au pair, whatever. So that was that. Then July came around and I started to feel better. The sun was out. We got off of confinement, and I realized I don't want to go back to the States. Like, I want to stay in France. I should have been an au pair again. But by this time they had already found an au pair, which I completely understood, you know, so I had to find something else. But they were very accommodating, and they were like, you know, you can stay here until you find something else. Don't rush, like don't rush to find a family. Take your time, find a good family. You can stay here. We'll give you a good recommendation, whatever. So at that point I started looking for a new family, and I wanted to stay in the Parisian region just because I really liked Paris and I wanted to be close so that I can come visit the kids and, you know, hang out with my host family once in a while and watch the kids grow up, because I truly became so close to them and I couldn't imagine the thought of having to leave them. So I went back on Au Pair World and I started searching for some new families, and this is when I found my next host family. So this lady was a film director who lived in the 7th arrondissement of Paris, which is right next to the Eiffel Tower. It's very chic, very expensive. I think it's the most expensive neighborhood in Paris. So this lady had money, okay? So she was a single mom of 2 boys, 9 and 11, and she wanted an au pair. So I was like, okay, what could possibly go wrong? I've been an au pair for a year now. I have some experience. I know the language well enough to get myself around. Like, it's not like how it was in the beginning when I didn't know anyone, I didn't know the language, I didn't know my way around Paris. You know, like, I'll be good. How hard can it be, right? So this was like beginning of July. I decided I was going to work with her starting in the end of August, like for the next school year. So at this point I had 2 months off, like for summer. So I did some traveling in July, and then in August I decided to go home for 2 weeks before coming back to start my next year with this lady. So I went home around mid-August for 2 weeks to California, and then I came back end of August. I came back like 2 days before I was supposed to move into the studio and get settled, and then I had like a week after that, and then I would start at that point. So I moved back to the States, and the day before I was supposed to move into the studio, she tells me, oh, actually, I'm in my summer house in Ile-de-Ré, and so we won't be back in time for you to move in. It's going to be an extra week for you to move in. Is there anywhere you can stay? Is it possible to stay with your old host family? The day before I'm supposed to move in, okay? So, no, it wasn't possible to stay with my old host family because they have a new au pair at this point, and she's moved in, and I'm not going to ask them the day before, can I stay with you for a week, because the lady I was supposed to work for won't let me move in. So that was extremely frustrating. Thankfully, I had a friend in Paris who let me stay with him for a week at the last minute notice, because can you imagine last minute notice trying to get accommodation in Paris? And at this point, mind you, I didn't have a SIM card because when I left my last au pair family, I had to give them their SIM card back because they paid for it. You know, they use the same SIM card for each au pair so that the number doesn't change. So at this point, I have no SIM card. My phone doesn't work. So anytime I leave my friend's apartment, my phone doesn't work unless I have Wi-Fi. I have nowhere to live because she's telling me at the last minute I can't move in yet. So thank God my friend let me stay at his place because I don't know what else I would have done. So it already wasn't off to a great start, okay? So I'm staying at his place, waiting for her to come back so I can move in. And then finally, she doesn't come back, but she's like, okay, this is the landlord's number, because she rents a chambre de bonne in her apartment. So she wasn't home, but she gave me the landlord's number, who was going to let me into the apartment so I could move my stuff in, whatever. So I still don't have data at this point. I don't have a SIM card, so I have to like map the directions out before I leave my friend's house, knowing like if I get lost, I can't call you or anything. I have 2 suitcases, a big ass backpack, no working phone. Like, I had to find this lady who I've never met. Once I get to this apartment building, it was just a nightmare. So I end up going to this lady's apartment. I get pickpocketed in the metro station on the way there because I have my hands full. I'm holding 2 suitcases. I have a backpack. Like, I'm trying to figure out where I'm going. And some guy ended up like going in my pocket, trying to take my debit card. Thankfully, he didn't get anything. And there was another guy in the station who like got my attention and told me to be careful. But yeah, I was just already super frustrated when I got there. So I get to this apartment and I find the guardian and she lets me move in. The studio is on the 7th floor of this Parisian apartment, no elevator, and the lady's like, okay, I'll give you the keys, and basically you're on your own. I'm not helping you carry your bags up 7 flights of stairs. So yeah, she's like, I'll give you the keys, and then there you go. So that was that. I had to carry my 2 big ass suitcases upstairs by myself, and then I finally got up there and the room was super tiny. It was literally like half the size of this room probably. It was so small. There was no bathroom inside. There was a shared bathroom like down the hall, shared kitchen. But whatever. It was in the 7th, like right by the Eiffel Tower. It was a really cute place, so I didn't really care at this point. So at this point, there's about a week before I'm supposed to start working. So she's still at her summer house. I haven't met her yet. I haven't met the kids yet. Well, that's a lie. I met her one time before. Obviously, we met in person before I decided to work with her. And I met one of the boys, the 11-year-old, and he was really sweet and really nice. We got along well, but I didn't meet the 9-year-old because he was with his dad. And at the first time we met, she told me that her and her kid's father were divorced and that the 9-year-old preferred to be with the dad and the 11-year-old preferred to be with mom. And she told me, if the dad ever comes around, you need to call me immediately. She told me that he wasn't allowed to be around the kids without her permission, and told me that he was making up rumors about how she was hitting the kids and he was fighting to get custody of the kids, and that's why like he wasn't allowed to be around the kids without her permission, and that I was not allowed to give him my number, and if he ever tried to contact me in any way or be around the kids when she wasn't there, I needed to call her immediately. So I was like, okay, yeah, whatever, I agreed. Red flag. I should have been like, hold up, doesn't seem right. Like, there's obviously some issues going on, but I was like, it's fine. Like, I'm in Paris. Like, it's fine. So, whatever. I agreed to not be in contact with the dad or to let her know if he ever came around, and that was that. So finally she ends up ordering my SIM card. So she ends up coming back, and then when she gets back, she still doesn't have my SIM card. So I still don't have a working phone at this point. So she said she ordered it and it never came. So she had to reorder it at this point. So I started work with no working phone. She showed me the kids' school, and basically my only job was to pick them up from school at around 5 o'clock and then keep them, bring them home, hang out with them, do homework with them, make sure they take their showers, and then she would come home around 7:30, and then I would leave. I didn't eat with them. I would just leave. She said I was welcome to eat with them once in a while if I wanted to, but from the way she said it, it was kind of apparent that like she didn't really want the au pair to eat with them. So I was just like, okay, whatever. I wasn't gonna press the issue. Finally, I get my SIM card. I'm working. Everything's fine. The kids they argue a lot. So they're 9 and 11 boys. So they were bickering all the time, always arguing, and I could tell that the 9-year-old was he was acting out because he knew that got him attention, and so he would purposely do things and try to push me to see how lenient I would be and to see how much he could get away with. And at this point, I'm like, I'm trying to be nice because I just started. Like, I want them to like me, obviously, but at the same time, like, y'all aren't just gonna act any kind of way. Like, you're not just gonna get away with doing anything, right? Like, I didn't want them to think I was a pushover. So it was kind of difficult. I had to really find the balance of like being the cool au pair and being nice, but also like laying down the law and sticking to the rules, you know. So yeah, I literally worked for this family for a total of 3 days, and it was okay. I'm not going to say it was great or that it was terrible, because honestly, it was 3 days. I really didn't get to know them at all. The mom seemed to be very distant and like very meticulous. She wanted things a certain way, and she wanted someone to take care of her kids, play with them, and then leave when she got there. So it wasn't wasn't really like the exchange that I was hoping for that I had with my last family. So I wasn't super thrilled about it, just because it was like, I honestly was only doing this job again because I wanted to stay in Paris, and with an au pair visa you can't do any other type of work. You can only be an au pair. So it was kind of like, maybe that's why it didn't go so well, because I was already in this mentality of like, I'm not doing this because I want to, or like for the experience, because I've already did it for a year and I got the experience I wanted and it was great. I'm only doing this because I don't want to go home. So I think that's maybe why maybe she could tell I just wasn't feeling it. I don't know. But so my birthday was September 3rd. It was a Friday night, and she asked me to babysit. She never said happy birthday to me, anything. I don't know if she knew or not. I'm assuming she's seen it at some point, because she had to do like paperwork whenever we were filling out contracts and stuff. I had to put my information. So I don't think she deliberately like knew and didn't say anything, but I also wasn't going to go out of my way to mention that it was my birthday. So one of my friends invited me out. We were going to go drink champagne and celebrate my birthday, but she asked me to babysit that night, so obviously I couldn't do that. So I was a little bummed about that, but whatever. So I went over to the apartment. I stayed with the kids. The 9-year-old ended up going to his dad's that weekend, so I just had the 11-year-old, so it was fine because he is pretty well behaved and he is a pretty sweet kid. So I babysat them from around 7 o'clock p.m. and then he went to bed and I was just chilling on the couch waiting for them to come home. So she comes home at midnight, right, on my birthday. And she's like, can we just talk really quick before you go? And so I'm like, okay, yeah, sure, like, why not? So I was like, yeah, maybe she has like a question, maybe she's like wants to know how I feel, how it's going, whatever. So she walks over to like her little desk area and she pulls out a paper, already typed and printed, honey. And she's like, yeah, this is not working, so we're gonna go ahead and terminate the contract, and I just need you to sign this saying that we're terminating.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
4 days in. I had worked for her for 4 days at this point. Okay. Never did she once tell me like, hey, like normally the au pair does things this way, or like I would prefer if you did this way. Like nothing. Never had a conversation, right? So I'm like shook at this point. Like trying not to laugh because it's just comical. Like 4 days. 4 days. Okay. After everything that happened in the beginning, like we were already off to a terrible start. I knew I should have been like, okay, this is not working, but whatever. So I was just like, okay, why? Like, did something happen? And she literally straight up looks at me and says, I think you know. I think you know why. And I'm at this point, I'm like, cut the cameras. Cut the cameras. Deadass. Like, this has to be a joke. I have to be getting punked right now. Like, what are you talking about? I've worked for you for 4 days. 4 days. We've never had a conversation. You've never brought anything to my attention that like you didn't like what I was doing, or that you wanted to make a suggestion about anything. Nothing. She says, I think you know. I just don't like your behavior with the boys. My behavior with the boys. The boys that I've known for 72 hours. Those boys, right? The same boys that I've barely known. Okay, just checking, because, you know, just checking. So at this point, I was just like, okay, whatever, like, whatever, lady. Signed her stupid little contract, termination, and she was like, yeah, so I'll give you 2 weeks, you know, you can stay in the studio for 2 weeks while you figure out what you're gonna do, find a new family, whatever. And she was like, and I'll still pay you for this week that you worked, and I'll pay you for next week too. So I was like, okay, whatever. And she's like, I'll still give you a recommendation. Like, if you want to find a new family and you need a recommendation, I'll give them a recommendation.
Boy, if you don't get...
First of all, why would I ask you for a recommendation when you won't even tell me what I did? You're firing me after 3 days and you won't even tell me why, or what I did. So thanks for the offer, but no, I don't need a recommendation from you. So I went back up to my studio and cried like a little baby on my birthday because I just got fired. And now I'm like homeless in Paris. I can't afford to live anywhere in Paris because, hello, I'm an au pair. I make 130 euro per week. So I'm just like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't want to tell my parents because they're gonna freak out if they know that I'm like 5,000 miles away and I just got fired and I like don't know where I'm gonna live. So I'm like freaking out. I'm trying to figure out what I'm gonna do. So over the next few weeks, it was a bunch of like looking for families and like trying to figure out if I could get an apartment, because at this time I had also been teaching English online for a few months. So I was making some money other than like what I was making as an au pair, but I wasn't working full time, so it was like it wasn't consistent, and it wasn't like a huge amount of money. At this point, it was like maybe 500-600 euro per month, which was like decent to live off of when you're an au pair and you have accommodation and food, and like you just use that money for traveling or whatever, but it's not enough to live off of in Paris as like your sole income. So I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. So I went back on Au Pair World and I was looking for families, and all of the families in Paris were taken. There was like no families at this point because school had started. We were like 2 weeks into the school year. So obviously every family already had an au pair. No one was looking for one. So I was freaking out. I didn't know what to do. I definitely didn't want to go back home. So I went back on Au Pair World and I was searching for families, and I found a family in Nice in the south of France. And it was just one 6-year-old girl. It was a French-Italian family, one 6-year-old girl. Seemed really easy. How hard could it be, right? Because I took care of a 6-year-old and a baby when I first came to France, and it was fine. So like I can take care of a 6-year-old girl again, right? What could possibly go wrong? How hard could it be, right? So at this point I'm like, okay, they seem cool, they seem normal. It's not in Paris, which was not ideal, but it's still in France, and it's in the south, like right by the beach. The south of France is beautiful. Like I can come visit Paris anytime I want to. It's great, you know. So I contacted this family, and I'm like kind of in a rush at this point because I have 2 weeks to move out of this place and like figure out what I'm doing, or else I'm going to be homeless, literally sleeping under the Champ du Mars, laying next to the Eiffel Tower, like literally would have nowhere to live. So I Skyped with this family in Nice. I met the mom, I met the daughter. They seemed sweet. They seemed pretty chill, like said I could start whenever. So I was like, okay, cool. So I ended up moving out like 3 days earlier than I was able to. Yeah, so she was like, you can stay in the apartment till the 16th of September, whatever. But I ended up leaving on like the 13th or the 12th. I was just like, this is a weird situation. Like, I don't want to stay here any longer than I need to. So I agreed to go with this family. We signed the contract, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to come in like 3 days. So I moved all my stuff once again, packed up all my stuff. Less than 2 weeks of living there, packed up all my stuff again, moved all my shit back down 7 flights of stairs, and booked a train ticket to Nice and left. So I met the mom at the train station in Nice once I arrived there, and she seemed really nice. She pulled up in her little Porsche, in her little Balenciagas. I was like, okay, I see you. Like, I guess this is what it's like in the south of France. So she picked me up, took me back home. She showed me where I was going to live. So the family lives on one side of the street, and then across the street there's the grandparents' house, and at the grandparents' house they have a studio which is attached to their house where the au pair stays. So I was staying in the studio at the grandparents' house. So she showed me my studio. It was cute, it was clean, whatever. I unpacked my stuff, and then we went and picked up the kid from school. I met her. She seemed really sweet. We hung out for a bit. And then she was kind of just like, okay, well, if you're tired, you can go in your studio, or if not, like, you can hang out. I don't want to say her name. What should her name be? I'll call her Lily. She's like, you can go sleep if you're tired, or you can hang out with Lily. And I was definitely tired. I had just been on a train for 7 hours, but like, it's my first day, so I wanted to make a good impression, obviously. So I was like, no, it's fine. I'll hang out with her. Like, at this point, it was already like 6 o'clock. So I'm thinking, like, you know, how long could this be? It's already 6 o'clock on a school night, like, you know, whatever. So we're hanging out together around 8 o'clock or so. She was like, okay, we're gonna eat dinner. Do you want to eat with us? So I was like, yeah, sure. Like, why not? I'll eat with you guys, get to know everyone. It's my first night. So we had dinner together, and it was fine. They were asking me like questions about myself and kind of like talking, over casual conversation. And yeah, so they seemed cool, whatever. So that night I went back to my studio, got settled in and everything, and I had to text the host mom and ask her, like, okay, so how do I get paid every week, and like, what's the food situation, and what's my schedule like? There wasn't really like any consistency. Like, there wasn't really a consistent schedule. She was kind of just like, I pick up Lily from school at 4:30, and then she has activities until 6, and then I bring her home at 6, and you stay with her till 8, and then we eat dinner together. Well, they eat dinner as a family. I don't eat dinner with them. So I was like, okay, like, normally I'm used to like picking up the kids and taking them outside to activities and like doing things outside of the house, not being stuck in the house. But literally with this family, my only job was to just play with the girl from 6 to 8 and like speak to her in English, which was fine. Like, whatever, it was easy, but in a sense it was kind of like, I don't know, I didn't really love it because I felt like I didn't really have much responsibility. I was just there to play with her, and I think Lily kind of sensed that. She saw me more of as like, I'm here to play with you, and not so much like I'm an authority figure and you have to like respect me and talk to me like someone with authority. It's more just like, you're just here to play with me and we do whatever I tell you we're gonna do. So that, I wasn't really digging that. And then on Wednesdays, of course in France kids don't have school on Wednesdays, so I was supposed to have her all day on Wednesdays. And she had some activities, like in the morning she would do activities for like 2 hours, and then in the afternoon she would have activities. But other than that, we were just at home, and there was not like anything else planned, and it wasn't expected of me to like go outside, go to the park, or like go to the movies, or plan some kind of like outdoor activity. It was literally just like, you guys sit at home and you find something to do, and you only speak in English, and you just play basically for 9 hours a day. So that kind of got old super fast just because I just got bored. We would be at the house, and because this was like during COVID time, the parents would be home too. They'd be working from home, but it was just a very weird dynamic because some days they would be working until like 5 or 6, but I was still expected to work until they ate dinner at 8. So I didn't finish work until 8 every night, but some nights they would be like done with work and the parents would be sitting on the couch like watching TV together, or upstairs in their room watching TV together, and I was just expected to play with Lily until 8 o'clock, and then they would eat dinner together and I would leave. So it's just kind of weird to me because it seemed like they wanted an au pair just because they wanted cheap labor. They wanted someone to watch their kid for cheap, teach her English for cheap, and clean their house. That was another thing. I had some tasks I had to do each day, like little cleaning tasks, like sometimes ironing the laundry or folding their laundry. Sometimes I had to like mop the kitchen floor, or like vacuum the kitchen, or vacuum Lily's room, or vacuum the parents' room and like clean their bathroom, which I wasn't really thrilled about because that's not my job as an au pair. Like normally the au pair, yes, can do some kitchen cleaning, like maybe unload the dishwasher or like clean up after the kids. Like I'm 100% fine with that. It's fine for the au pair to do that, but it's not my job to mop your bathroom floor in the parents' bedroom, or like fold the parents' laundry. And like they had an 18-year-old son who was living at the house, so I'm like folding his laundry and stuff too. Like that was just, I wasn't a huge fan of that. That just kind of bothered me, but whatever. At first it was like, it's fine, you know, it's just a learning curve. I have to get used to them. It'll be okay. They had a really nice house, so it was like, their house was never super messy or anything like that. It was like not that big of a deal to me, but the longer I stayed, it kind of just wore on me. You know, I wasn't super happy. We went back into confinement, so now at this point I'm working more because the activities are canceled. So now on Wednesdays I have her all day. Normally I would have her only for a few hours because she had activities, but now those are canceled, so I have her all day on Wednesdays. I have her from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m. every other day during the week. We're not leaving the house, so I'm not going anywhere in my free time because there's nowhere to go. So I'm literally sitting in my studio all day until 4, and then I'm coming over here to clean your house and take care of your kid, and then going back into my studio and not seeing anyone, not leaving or doing anything. The family never talked to me. Like, the whole point of being an au pair is to have a cultural exchange. I teach the kids English. You talk to me in French. We're like, I'm part of the family. It's a cultural exchange. They never spoke to me in French. They barely spoke to me in English. Like, not to say hello, how are you, whatever. Like, they didn't know anything about me, which was just, I found this very bizarre. Like, they didn't make an effort to get to know me at all, which was very weird to me considering I'm taking care of your child. I'm in your house and I'm taking care of your child. Like, you would think you would want to get to know me and like know something about me, but they literally never spoke to me more than just like, hi, can you do this today? Or like, can I have you clean this and like fold the laundry? Like, that was it. Only wanted me to speak in English, so I was never progressing in my French. And even sometimes, like, I would be with Lily and I would write like the English word and then I'd write the French word next to it so she could see both and like know the meanings. And then she, like, her mom would like call her over and she would talk to her mom, and then her mom would walk away and she would be like, oh, my mom doesn't want us to speak in French, only in English. So I'm like, okay, one, why is your mom telling you this and not telling me this? Like, why is she not telling me this? That's a little bit weird. And two, like, it was just really frustrating because I'm like, it seems like you want cheap labor to clean your house, watch your kid, and entertain her while you do what you want and teach her English for free. And at this point, I'm getting nothing out of it. Of course, they're paying me my little 100 euro per week, and I live in the studio for free, but like, that's it. I'm not learning anything. I'm making my own meals. I eat by myself because they eat as a family and they don't ever invite me. I eat by myself. I'm not progressing in French because they don't speak with me. I can't go anywhere even in my time off because we're in confinement, so I'm locked up in my studio all day. So at this point, I'm kind of just like, what's the point of staying here? And I think because I had such a bad experience before in Paris that I was kind of just already over it. Like, maybe if I would have talked to the family, it could have improved, but at this point I had stayed with them 3 months and I was just like mentally drained. I was over it. I didn't want to do it anymore, you know? So I was literally would get anxiety like during the day, the closer and closer it got to the time where I had to like walk over to the house and start working, I would get anxiety because I was just like, I just don't want to do it. Like, I'm literally counting down the minutes while I'm with the kid, and I just like, I don't want to do this anymore. So thankfully I had been working full-time during confinement. I had been teaching full-time because, you know, I'm sitting at home, I can't go anywhere, so I picked up more hours teaching. So I was making a decent amount of money. So I saved up my money and I decided I'm gonna just move out. I'll get an apartment somewhere. I'll stay in Nice because as much as I wanted to move back to Paris, it's so expensive. So yeah, I ended up finding an apartment in Nice and I moved out in middle of December. And that was that. I've been living there since, and now I just teach full-time, and that's it. I work from home, I teach full-time. Normally, if, you know, when we're able to travel again, I'll be traveling, and I can teach from wherever I have Wi-Fi, so that's awesome. Now I'm back home at my parents' house visiting, and I can teach from here, so I'm in a much better place. I'm much happier. So that was my experience. I'm definitely glad that I had such a good experience the first time I was an au pair, because that kind of showed me what to expect and how an au pair should be treated in a family and how a family should act towards their au pair. And if I hadn't had that, then I think I might still be stuck in the situation with this family in Nice, just because like you don't know anything else. You don't know if it's normal that the family doesn't talk to you, or that you're buying your own food and you're eating meals by yourself and the kid talks to you like you're literally just the worker, and that there's no type of authority level there. So I'm not glad I had a bad experience, but I'm glad I had the good experience before it, because yeah, it would have been really sad if that was my only au pair experience and I didn't have a good experience to look back on. So that is my au pair experience in a nutshell. So just some things to look out for in a family when you're looking for an au pair family. Just make sure you have a conversation about what your expected duties are, what your schedule is like. Make a planned schedule, because there were so many times when I thought I was not supposed to be working and I was expected to work longer than I was supposed to. And when I was supposed to have Christmas break, she expected me to be working when the kids were out of school and the parents were off work. She still expected me to be there working, taking care of the kid while they were just at home chilling, which was weird to me, because if you're off work, why would you not spend time with your kid? Why would you want me there? But whatever. So yeah, that's just some things to look out for in a family, because a lot of au pair families try to take advantage of au pairs because they don't pay us very much and they know like how much we're excited to be there and we're there for the experience. So a lot of families try to get away with making their au pair just do more than they're supposed to. So it's super important to just read up on whatever country you're going to and the rules and regulations of the au pair program and what you're not supposed to do, what you're allowed to do, what you're expected to do, whatever. Make sure you guys are on the same page before you sign your contract. Ask any questions you need to ask. I'm also going to make another video about what you should ask your au pair family before you start, because I think this video is going to be a little bit long, so I don't want to say too much in this video. But yes, I will be making an au pair Q&A video answering some frequently asked questions about being an au pair, and then I will make another video if you guys need or want some things to talk to your host family about before you start and what to look out for. I hope you guys have a better au pair experience than I did the second and third times. Thanks for listening to my story. I hope you guys learned something from my experience, and as always, if you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below and I will answer them as soon as I can. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!